afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football on this Friday the 13th. Ooh, the 13th. There are a lot of people that are superstitious. I mean, there was somebody that even last pot out was saying that with the Michigan basketball game on Wednesday night, they stopped watching when things go bad, leave the room, and then they came back and things were going well. And apparently that was not the first time that had happened. So they've got a little bit of that mojo, wearing the same shirts, wearing the same shoes, ties, whatever, going to the same entrance. You know, people are pretty superstitious when it comes down to it. People can be annoying when it comes down to that. If you talk about a team losing or something, you know, you'll get smacked. Broadcasters, when a guy's up at the free throw line, given the free throw percentage, you know, if they've jinxed them. You know, I don't believe in any of that. I try to have a little fun with it, but I think people they do take it seriously. So I try to just get out of their way when they're really serious about it. And if it's serious about thinking that the superstitions are affecting things, but whatever. Today we are going basketball, football, and hockey and basketball. That's a lot of winter sports and a little bit of football included in there. The Michigan defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, did an interview, and I took out what I thought was the most interesting part of that said interview, and we'll have a little something up for discussion. When it comes to hockey and basketball, it's a question I am going to answer myself at the end, but I'm just going to leave it out there for everyone else. I thought about it, and I thought, well, and then I said, okay, here's my answer. What is going to be more difficult for the Michigan hockey team to win a national championship for the first time since 1998? Or will it be more difficult for the basketball team, both teams ranked number 2 in the country, to win a natty for the first time since 1989? The basketball team has been to the championship game more than the hockey team since they both have last won it. So that's all I'll have to say about it until I actually answer the question. But if you wanted to answer that question, you can. If you have any other questions, you can throw them in the feedback. If you have any points that you want to make as the show goes on, you can also use the feedback, because this is a show where we read the feedback and we look forward to the feedback. We want to know what Michigan fans are thinking. And we start with the team that could be the number 1 team of the country come Monday, and that is the Michigan basketball team, who takes on UCLA tomorrow, a matinee, 1 o'clock, the Chrysler Center. Michigan will be a heavy favorite to win that game. They should win that game. And then come Monday, they'll be number 1. Now, number 1 isn't everything, but number 1's pretty cool. Something that I wanted to see. I've mentioned that a few times, and I mentioned it again right here. Seeing the number 1 next to Michigan, that was one of the things on my checklist. Everybody's checklist had natty on it, and maybe that's the only checklist that you have. I see a lot of people when they talk about polls, especially preseason polls, they don't, none of it matters. They don't care about polls. None of that matters. Apparently, it doesn't matter when they're watching week to week to see who the teams are. And it's nice it's nice when you have, number 13 is taking on number 9. That's top 25 matchup. No. Some people are a bottom line. Maybe they're the same people that are superstitious. That only matters. And they're right. The final game of the year. Who's number 1 there? But on my own particular checklist, it's there, and I think it'll be pretty cool. Now, it's nice that we're here able to talk about it, because for the majority of Wednesday night, it looked like that was not going to happen. And maybe this team was thinking about being number 1 when they waltzed into Northwestern and got behind at the half. and then proceeded to get down by 16, and it looked like they were going to lose. before going on the 34-17 run to close it out and claim the victory in Evanston. After the game, Yaxel Lendenborg, who's pictured, he's talking with Andy Katz. He said, yeah, something about we're the team to beat. Or we're the best team in the country. It was one of those things. Whatever it was, you could see the response from Trey McKinney right next to him. He liked it. He's like, oh, he's putting it out there. Oh, he said it. And he did say it. Now, go and back it up. Now, my thoughts about going out there and proclaiming you're the best team in the country, or, hey, we're number one, and is that if you can back it up, then go ahead. I don't know about that kind of talk before the season. You can mention goals, but at this point, where we're mid-February and we're getting ready and everything is getting hot, then, hey, go ahead, back it up. And Yax is if I had to say who's the number one player or who's the number one leader, it'd be Yax. And so he said it, and let's see it when it comes down to being the number one team. That's what's at stake tomorrow. The other thing is that Ade Mara played at UCLA, so he has a revenge game. You say, well, it's really the Bruins or Cronin, the head coach from UCLA. It'll be more about revenge for them because, Mara was there for 2 years and now he's playing really well. And Cronin has been a little, I don't know. He hasn't been really complimentary of Mara. I've looked at some of the comments that he's made since the big man's departure from Southern California to Ann Arbor. So there would be nothing better. The perfect Valentine's Day sets up like this. Michigan blows out UCLA. Ade Mara throws a couple sky hooks, throws a couple jams down, and Mick Cronin cries about having to have a 1:00 Eastern start for a West Coast team afterwards. Also, when he's asked about Mara going off on his team, also says something kind of wimpy or whatever else, something that will entertain you. That would be full-on entertainment for me. Now, the rest of the Valentine's Day, the Michigan hockey team, they play at 6:30 tonight, but they play tomorrow. A Valentine's, what a Valentine's Day that would be for you. If your significant other said, I am getting you a subscription to the Maize and Blue Review, and how about we go to the Michigan hockey game tonight at 5:00 for Valentine's Day. I'm calling it St. Patrick's Day. That to me would be ideal. That's the perfect Valentine's Day. Now, I don't know if your wife wants to go to the Michigan hockey game. So whatever is happening before, you get to take care of it, and then you go to the hockey game. Maybe, a question. I like the, at least for myself, organic questions. Tomorrow, you could go to the Michigan basketball game in Ann Arbor, 1:00. At 5:00, as mentioned, Michigan hosts Gavin McKenna and Penn State. McKenna is supposed to be the number one pick in the NHL draft, and he's expected to play this weekend against the Wolverines. It'd be a great game. Michigan hockey is great to be at any game. This game would be awesome to be at. The doubleheader. Have you ever gone to 2 games in the same day? That's the question. There have been a lot of opportunities. I did a Did I do a Tiger playoff and then a Lions Monday night game? I think I did that. I don't know if I've done another one. There have been instances where the Wings and Pistons were, or the Tigers and Red Wings. Can't really do it for Pistons and Wings anymore. I guess you could if the Red Wings had like a 1:00 game and the Pistons had an 8:00 game, and they did the switch over and everything else. So maybe I think it could be done. I don't know how many hours it takes. Maybe just a few. So you could do that. Give me that if you've ever been able to do. That's rare to do, and we have that situation tomorrow in Ann Arbor. Maybe somebody out there that's watching this live be like, yeah, I'm doing the Michigan doubleheader tomorrow. Let's go. What's the big deal? Do it all the time. All right. You get your props if that happens. The basketball team, 1:00. That is a game on CBS. A reminder that we will be with you right here on this very channel that you are watching or listening to, the Maize and Blue Review with the Michigan post-game live show. Pretty much immediately after the game, we'll be firing up the equipment and talking about what transpired against the Bruins. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's look at some of the feedback before we move over to football. Go ahead and get those questions in. Andres was at a golf sim when he realized the guys were down 15. Couldn't put my money down faster on the comeback. Ooh, now is that right? There was a point in the first half where Michigan was down, and I thought to myself, if Michigan was even in this game, if I look up the live spread, then I will bet on it. And I looked, and Michigan was still favored by 7.5. Now, they ended up winning by 12, which would have been the right bet, but it scared me away enough where no. It would be interesting to see what the line was when Michigan was actually down 15. You hit it on the money line. You might even be able to get 2 for 1 on that. You know, the week before I was at the Pistons, not yesterday, but the week before I went to the Pistons Wizards game. And the Pistons were down 21 at some point in the first half. And I looked, and they were getting 1.5 points. And I said, money line it. And Pistons lost. Smash bringing out his Wednesday feedback says we got a win versus the Whiner. Andre says everyone likes to knock Cronin. At least you know how he feels at all time. Michigan Go Blue 1324, who is a student and a big Michigan fan, says he's got homework to do, but have a great weekend and go Blue. Cronin saying that Adai playing well was the reporter's opinion. Wants to destroy UCLA even more. That's right. Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's, believe me, Mara knows exactly about, Cronin. If I was covering Cronin, I'd be firing all kinds of questions at him all the time. If he was coming back and he's always, that's your opinion. What are you talking about? It's like, what are you doing? Why are you the coach? You can't answer questions without being a smart ass at all times. Why not let their play do the talking? I don't mind. This is Don's retort to Yak saying that they're the best team in the country. And I don't mind, Don, you having that. And the truth be told, if we were all sitting around, if you and I were running a team, I would say, and Don, you're the head coach, I would say, Don, let's talk to our players about not giving any bulletin board material, not, talking into acting like we're the best team before we've won anything. Let's exactly what you're doing. Let's let our play do the talking. Let's tell the players that. And then we would go tell them that. And I don't know if it's just, you say, players nowadays, this has been going on. I mean, Jim Harbaugh guaranteed a victory back in the 80s. So we're always getting some of this, but yeah, overall, I would like that, but it's is UCLA going to use that, or these other teams? They're when you're number one, you are. You. I guess technically you are at that point the best team. So they are attempting to move into that stratosphere. Smash says Cronin needs to wake up at 4:30 his time. We already have broken him. I agree. He feels like he is broken. A rare matinee at Yost. Yeah, 5 o'clock. Smash looking ahead, saying Valentine's Day is the Super Bowl Sunday next year. Well, wait, Valentine's Day is Super Bowl Sunday. I guess Valentine's Day can be on a Sunday. I was thinking, no, that's not right, but okay. And how many times will you talk about Bad Bunny between now and then, Smash? I'm going to put the over and under at 25. We'll see how that goes. We'll do a running count on that. YouTube 69669 says he's looking ahead to Tuesday. And that's when Michigan will be going to Mackey to take over their trap. They're going to walk in there and take it over. What to do to kill 2 hours in Ann Arbor between the two games? Well, you could sit in a car, and for an hour, you could watch the Michigan postgame live show. And then the Michigan hockey, you can listen. You probably listen on the radio. You can listen in through your app to the pregame. I think it's about 20 minutes long. I talked to the coaches. Al Randall, the play-by-play man, who I'm looking forward to seeing the following week in Wisconsin. So, grab something to eat, watch the Michigan postgame live, and, get into the rink pretty early. Now, I'm one who, when I'm going as a fan, I went as a fan, I already mentioned it, to the Wizards game last Thursday. And we got there, we walked in, went to the parking lot, we were in line. We were thinking about getting in line for the concessions, and we looked up and it said 2 minutes to tip. We walked right in, got our seats, and we were there right away. That's nice. I like going for a baseball game. It's not bad getting there a couple hours early. Watch batting practice. You get to a basketball game early. You can always watch a guy or two shooting around, going through some drills. I like doing that. Hockey, it's fun. They come out and, they're skating around. They'll do some things, shooting, and then they, before the Zambonis. It's cool being there early. So, you can get to Yost pretty early. Leave Chrysler late, get to Yost early. Andre says, run over to the dispensary. Yeah, that'll be going on. I was going to say something with pot as well. I don't know why pot's on everybody's mind. I did see one of the Ohio State sites showing a video of Michigan players hot boxing what they say was at Schembechler. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the players were. I don't know if it's valid. I don't care. I think that I think that it's not that big of a deal if players were hot boxing at the football building, but I would recommend not shooting a video. So like I said, I don't care. But I wouldn't do that. There's a lot better places. Probably go to your car. Hot box your car up. Do it. In the football locker room, it would not be the place that I would choose. And then I certainly would not videotape it. So those two things, a little questionable there. The other stuff, like, okay, you want to do it, do it. But let's, YouTube says you're basically a pregame for the second game. There you go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. You can have a great time. Get out of Chrysler Center. I don't know how much tailgating you want to do before a 1 o'clock game at the Chrysler Center, but then afterwards, because you do have 2 hours to kill. Yeah, hot box in your car at Yost. Way to go. It's more difficult to go something in the evening after spending the first half of the day at the big house. Well, big house, that's an all-day event. Big house, you got to get there 3-4 hours early, and then you got to stay for 3-4 hours, and then the game's 3 or 4 hours. That's all day. That's all day. Trying to get in and trying to get there early, or trying to get there right at kickoff and then trying to get out of there. I don't even know how quickly you can do that. It's hard. You're fighting a lot of traffic. Smash said Michigan football and then a Tigers Saturday night game has happened fairly often, I think. You think for yourself or feasibly with the schedule that it could be done? A 1 o'clock or noon would be 1 o'clock. Although there was some 1 o'clocks back in the day. Noon and then a 7:05. That could be done. That can be done. There you go. Not Ripstar is talking about busting out some cane sugar Mexican Cokes. Let's go. And give him the loot. He's got a wicked jump shot. All of that. There it goes. I don't remember saying anything about any lines. You'll have to talk to me about that. Ferris once ate a California burrito and had some Mexican Coke at the taco stand. All right. There we go. There we go. Mara's got to hit free throws under pressure. They're going to maul Mara. I do think they're going to maul Mara. You're correct about that. So I would say after last game in drawing that flagrant foul for elbowing Martinelli in the face, I think that you don't want to get any more of a reputation. And then, Cronin, and I could just see his players poking Mara and mauling him, sending him to the free throw line. I'd like to see one, Mara keep his cool. Number two, knock down his free throws. That's where I am at when it comes down to it. All right. Andre's talking about Mick when he was back in Cincy. Yes, I am going to the huge series up at Wisconsin. That's it. Don't sleep on UCLA. UCLA currently 7th in the Big Ten between Whiskey and Iowa. Well, that's all you need to know. I mean, when I looked at the standings the other night, I saw Northwestern way over on the right column towards the bottom. In the first column, it was Michigan up at top, and on the first page, you did have UCLA there, and Wisconsin beat Michigan. So yeah, I mean, for sure, you're not taking anyone lightly. You're going to be poised to be the number one team. You're getting closer to March. Every single breath that we take, you're trying to win a natty, and there's no taking anything easy. There's no anything. GDSPE misses the coffee shop below the stands at the south end of Yost. Ooh. Yeah, I don't mind go to a hockey game, a cup of Tim Hortons kind of makes you feel like it's the right way to go, Now, this is also a nice place to go, although it's going to be nice tomorrow, so it'll be a little bit better. Washtenaw Dairy. That's a good time. I'm there with that. Here we go with talking some Stallions. I'll just let that one go by. I am watching basketball tonight. That is on my radar after the Michigan hockey game. Basketball, Michigan State at Wisconsin. I don't know. Ripstar is saying I could use the Borg. Oh, sorry. I had a little cough there, and instead of using the cough button, I used this button. Yeah, I can do that. All right, my bad. I was reaching for the Borg. Use it as a gravity bong. So that would be filling it up. I don't know. I don't know how to make a gravity. I think I've seen it done. But I don't know how to do it myself. Old Hadley is in the house, and he says, as long as you're done Saturday with your post game, the basketball recap before 4:30, we'll be able to listen to both in full. So keep that in mind. And do you see a hockey sweep over Penn State? Basketball wins by 15 over UCLA. I think the 15 sounds about right for basketball. And I am thinking sweep. Now, they played in Happy Valley in 2025, and they split. Michigan blew them out one game, and then it was a 4-2 the other way. But yeah, I'm thinking Michigan. I'm thinking all the points. They want to see if they can reclaim the number one spot. Then you would have. I don't know if this has ever happened. Has the Michigan hockey team and the Michigan basketball team been the number one team in the country at the same time ever? There you go. Now that's something. Vin says Cronin can't complain about the game time. They have had 1 week to prepare for this game. Oh, don't tell that to Mick, because Mick will complain. I almost want to go down there to ask him about the time and the schedule and a day tomorrow. Just have 3 or 4 questions lined up for him. Hey, Mick, how are the biorhythms of you guys with this 1 o'clock start? Just lobbing that one right up there. Just a little, take the pin, throw it up there. Hey, Mick, how about the game time? Mick, how much you guys miss a day tomorrow? They lose by 15. Mara has 20 and 10. There's another one up there. How do you feel about the schedule moving forward? There's another one for you, Mick. Let's go. That's it. Okay, let's move on to football. We'll continue taking your feedback and everything else. And I do have your feedback always available. Now, what we have in front of you on the screen is a picture of Michigan's new defensive coordinator, Jay Hill. Jay Hill, Michigan defensive coordinator. He was on with John Jansen on his podcast. You can catch that full interview. But this particular quote is the one that I'm asking you guys all about. The question was, how long is it going to take to install your defense? And here's what Jay Hill had to say.
Well, I would say we run the most complicated scheme in the country. We have more calls. We do more things with fronts and coverages. So this is not something that they just pick up in a day. We're going to need all of spring. We're going to need all of summer. We're going to need all fall camp to have us ready to go for the first game. And by then, we'll be ready to go.
All right. So is this a big deal or no big deal? Really, it's just the first sentence that I am zeroing in on, this sentence.
Well, I would say we run the most complicated scheme in the country.
So they run the most complicated scheme in the country.
Well, I would say we run the most complicated scheme in the country. We have more calls.
All right. So if you like to be someone who gets nervous about things, well, here's something to get nervous about. If you like to get nervous, just like there's like people like to be superstitious. There's some people. The thing is there anything to worry about for real on this? I would say to Jay that, hey, Jay, you got a lot of people that are going to be hanging on every single word that you say. If we were talking before he went into this interview, and with this particular question, this is a pretty routine question. How long is it going to take to install your defense? You're coming in as a new guy. To me, I would have liked him to say something like, hey, it's an easy defense to learn, but difficult to master. And then you'd be like, oh, okay, that sounds nice. But you get a little nervous when you hear it's going to take Michigan. You could interpret this as, wow, this is going to take a lot of time to pick up. And when it's this complicated.
Well, I would say we run the most complicated scheme in the country.
Okay, so, and if I really want to get nervous, I say, forget Michigan beating Oklahoma. I mean, they're not going to know that they got this complicated defense. And it was just that they have to learn. It was just last year. It was last year. It was 2 years ago after Michigan won the national championship. You go in and you had Makari Page, and it's like, oh, it's kind of nice that you're going to have Wink coming in because he's the one that taught Minter and Mike McDonald, the schemes, so the terminology. This should be flawless. And Makari Page is like, no, it's not. It's a completely different defense. Everything's different. The terminology is different. The verbiage is longer. And I was thinking, wow, what? We thought he was pulling our legs, your leg. But so he was asked again, and he doubled down. He said, no, everything's different. Everything's different. We got to learn it. And, the Wink's like, this is my defense. And you can make the case that against Texas, that Michigan, was down 24-3 at half, and, Sark blew them off the field. And then afterwards, Michigan defenders even talked about, well, they just were a little confused in some of their communication. That to me sounds like, they didn't get the verbiage down in the communication. It was the same thing. It was the same thing after USC. They won that game, but there was still talk of, well, we're still getting familiar with the defense. It's going to take a little while. It was almost damn near the first half of Wink's tenure. People were freaking out. There's a lot of tape dudes that were checking it out saying, Wink blitzes too much. He sucks. And, they wanted to fire Wink. Some people, I don't know, fire him, but criticize him. Certainly criticize him after that Texas game. And that, he was too old. The game had passed him by. He blitzes too much. And, he changed all the defensive calls over. So it just happened where people feel like that because of a complicated defense. And it didn't have to be that way with Wink. Now, it does have to be. This is a completely new defense. So there's no sugarcoating that. It happens. But, if we were presenting everyone and say, would you like to have continuity with the coaches and a scheme and the players that, are familiar with the scheme? Now, this is not only going on defense, but this is also going on offense. Actually, it's going on in the entire building. You couldn't have any difference than, Sharon Moore, Kyle Whittingham, Jay Hill, Wink, everything's different. So there's going to be part of that. And then you add on that this defense, one more time.
Well, I would say we run the most complicated scheme in the country.
Is that necessary? I don't know. I'm looking forward to asking JJ, why is it such a complicated scheme? I'm thinking of that and thinking that's not a good thing. How about, he said he likes attacking defense and stop the run. Well, it's music to everyone's ear. You like attacking, you like aggressive, you like hearing a coach say they got to stop the run. It's the Big Ten. Everybody gets that. We're running the most complicated scheme in the country. What I am going to do is step back and just say that this is February talk. I am not going to get up in arms about a complicated scheme. And I should have a chance if I get down there while the spring practices and the coaches are available, and I'll be able to throw some questions at him about, Jay, is it really necessary to have the most complicated scheme? What do you say to Michigan fans who think that it's going to take you half the season before these guys get adjusted to? Now, he said, look, we'll be ready to go by game one and all those kind of things. So he'll be ready for some of those questions. And that's where we're at with Jay Hill. Jay Hill, I was looking at I listened to the interview. There's no one that knows Kyle Whittingham better than Jay Hill. Jay Hill went to Utah to play football as a defensive player, and his defensive coordinator when he was a player was Kyle Whittingham. When Jay Hill was done playing football at Utah, he coached cornerbacks at Utah under Kyle Whittingham. And then he coached tight ends, corner, running back. I mean, he went defense, offense, defense, offense. And he was there from 2005 to 2013 as Kyle Whittingham was the head coach. Then he left to be a head coach at Weber State. And he was there for 9 years. So that's good, having a head coaching experience. Did well at Weber State, and then went to Utah's arch rival. There's so much of this Utah, BYU, and these guys. This is the big rivalry in Utah, and half of the Michigan coaches either have coached at like both places or played at the other one and went to the other one. It's madness. To me, at least, when you think about it, would be, I think it happens. Some guys, play at Michigan and coach at Ohio State or vice versa. Actually, I don't know if that happens a little bit here and there, but it seems like it happens a lot with this very staff, and it's just one of those things. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. This is not me. Where's my guy who always says I'm being very negative? I'm just pointing that out. It's a little odd. So he goes to BYU as a defensive coordinator, does Hill, and he does a nice job there. He's there from 2022, 23, 24, 25, 4 years as a defensive coordinator. And then now he comes in with Witt. And when you say that Whittingham, when he knows Whittingham better than anybody else, he was a player, and then he was a coach under him, and then he left, and then he was saying, listen to that pod, that he was, he's friends then with Whittingham. I think he said they went skiing together, maybe something else. I don't know, riding horses, motorcycles. I don't know. But so you play for him, and then you coach for him, and then you leave, and then you're kind of his boy, and then you come back, and now you're trying to win an Natty. So there you go with the J Hill file. So is it making you nervous at all that this is very complicated? Is this just a big? I don't want to say it's nothing. It's to me, it's February talk. I can understand how you at least just listen to it and say, really, we're going to have the most complicated scheme, first year head coach. Is this? You want to ease it in a little bit? Maybe throw him a little J Hill defense 101 before you go J Hill defense 401. But that's how I'm thinking about it. But I do admit that it is February talk. And so that's where I'm at with it. Let's see what the people think of what J Hill had to say. Wasn't Wink's defense complicated? I talked about that. He changed everything up. I didn't like that. Andres is saying my sanity level goes down when I think about the Browns. I just let them happen with me at this point. You forget at times that Andres, who is a Michigan fan, is also a Cleveland Browns fan. And it comes up once in a while. I did see someone today on Twitter was posting, and it got a lot of traction. The person said, the Pistons are doing well. The Tigers are back. The Red Wings will be in the playoffs, and the Lions are back to mediocrity. It's like old times. It's okay. That's it. Mr. Martini says, complicated, keep it simple. He's going with the kiss. I think that's an understandable point. And if I was heading down to talk to Jay Hill, I think I would even write that part down, Mr. Martini. I would say, hey, Jay, why is your defense being very complicated in the first time in coming here to Michigan? Why wouldn't you make it simple? Let's see what they have to say about that. Why so difficult? That's it. Michigan hasn't played simple defense since Don Brown. Going to a little Don Brown talk here. Crying Ryan, a new Don's signals. That is what it sure seemed like. It. I mean, he knew those crossing routes. But you know what? He might have known his signals. I know. I don't know if Stallion says it, and other people have said it. It seems like that all Michigan fans think that. Maybe they did. Maybe they did have the signals, which makes it interesting how then Michigan got caught for the signals and everything. But there's even about signals. Don Brown, just from you don't even have to be a tape guy or have played football and everything, but you'd say these receivers that just run these routes, these shallow crossing routes. And you watch the Indiana game and you're like, wow, why? Hopefully Ohio State's not watching that because Michigan's having a really hard time covering that. And then guess what? Ohio State, that's what they did. They just kept running. And it was like they didn't have to know. I knew it was coming. I knew the signals. I knew that they couldn't cover crossing routes. And Don Brown, to his detriment, was a little hard-headed. When it was all go, 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 aggressive, and it said, hey, Don, maybe, think about dialing it back. No, I'm doubling down. I'm going to be more aggressive. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, Don Brown was good against inferior competition and then was not up to the task when it came down to it. So there you go. Okay, more Don Brown talk. Goats since Yost. High admission standards allow for complicated schemes. Well, if you're talking about the overall student body, I might agree with you on that. We're talking about football players and being football smart and being school smart. There's a little bit of carryover, but not so much. I mean, give me somebody that's really football smart. So, yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but no. People that can get 12-year-olds. That Ripstar says, get your wife flowers, preferably from the dispensary, and do her chores. Yeah, my wife would not be interested. She has a job where they're not down with she gets drug tested. Basically, is what I'm trying to say there. So she would not like any flowers from the dispensary. That would not happen. Mr. Martini, you're supposed to confuse your opponent, not your own players. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, right? So there we are, coming down to it. And let's see, people more talking about the Browns, not going there. John's fiance loves grilled cheese, so that's all that matters. You're gonna make some grilled cheese. Maybe serve up some tomato soup and some grilled cheese. That doesn't sound very bad. That's it. I'm making myself laugh, but John's now talking pizza, so let's zero in on what he's saying here. If it's an authentic New York cheese pizza, toppings if we're going to Pizza Hut or something. Yeah, I'm always, I think New Yorkers and East Coast people are kind of snobs when it comes to pizza, and they don't make a lot of sense to me. There's great combos in history. And you think Jim Harbaugh and J.J. McCarthy, grilled cheese, tomato soup, Sonny and Cher, and pizza and pepperoni. So when anybody talks about, I'll just take a cheese pizza, all right, great. The only problem I have with my man Portnoy, who does he does a great job on reviewing his pizzas and everything, but he never gets pepperoni on him. So every time I watch him and I'm entertained, but I'm always like, I don't care what you think of a cheese pizza. I want to know what the pepperoni looks like. It's completely different. It's completely different. Now, John Ripp has ripped you for a lot of things. And I usually just pass it on because, hey, John's out here trying to make a buck and everything. But I'm with not Ripstar taking you to task on this one. John says he just likes cheese pizza. You deserve a little be called out on the carpet. I mean, what's going on here? Mr. Martini, coach of Vance. Who's coach of Vance? Vance Bedford? Probably. Coach Vance Bedford's philosophy, if that's who he's talking about, is you have to teach your base defense before teaching them advanced schemes. Well, you know what, Mr. Martini, that makes sense to me. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So, Jay's teaching them the base now. It's, they're going, it's a big time learning curve. I've got a few questions. Smash loves to over complexify things. Is that a word? I don't think so. He does some kind of algebra. Well, there you go. Well, that's fine for, math guys. We're talking about football players. Yeah, well, Michigan's not BYU, and let's see how that BYU defense did his first year. Was it completely did he, was he throwing them advanced algebra when, they didn't know how to do general math? I mean, I don't know. DVR says, as long as we major on the fundamentals like keep, contain, I don't care. I feel like that's good. YouTube says, don't act like these players are like their normal student peers. Whoever suggested that. Well, hey, they're in, and I look at it, they're coming to Michigan, the students, however they were able to get in, they, maybe some of them, it helped where their parents or, you had a wealthy uncle or something. I don't know. I mean, you get some points when you're putting in for that, but I know in my school, I went to one of the biggest high schools in Michigan, in Livonia, and there were only 2 or 3 people getting into Michigan coming out of the whole high school. It wasn't like, and everybody else was, the next 100 or 200, they're all going, the Michigan State, but there's only a couple that were going to Michigan. So really hard to get in. And that's where it starts academically, where state fans and Michigan fans, where state fans just get, they're automatically upset because I get that. And it's hard, really hard. But the football players, I mean, we never had in my 4 years, there was nobody that was getting into Michigan playing football in all of Livonia and all of Southeast Michigan, I don't think. So, and you have to be like those students as the football player. So what I'm saying is, you're at the top 99.9 percentile, and that's why you get into Michigan. And then you use it however you can. Here's John talking cheese pizza. Let's see what he has to say. John says, sometimes I eat cheese and sometimes I eat toppings. Well, what do you put on there, John? Now, you got to put pepperoni on a pizza. If I'm going down the line, then I'll add mushrooms. I'll add green pepper, and I would add onion. It can be red, it can be white onion. That'd be my big 5. That's where I would be at on that. So that's all. Thank you, John. Livonia now puts in a bunch of kids. That's the case in every high school in Metro Detroit. They put a bunch of kids in Michigan now. Maybe that was just like back in the day. That would be just back in the day. I don't know how it happened. Smash is talking Costco pizza. My wife got Costco pizza, a couple like big tray. It's a big rectangular tray. It's really hard to cook that pizza. It says 20 minutes, but you pull it out after 25 minutes and you're looking at it and you're like, this isn't cooking. And so then you pull some out, you're eating it, you're throwing it back in, and then it's. I'm not down with I like almost everything from Costco except their pizza. It's too hard to cook. I've never had a hot dog from Costco. I've had a lot of hot dogs. I'm spending 2 hours, going around and waiting in the line and everything. When am I going over to get a hot dog? I mean, like halftime at shopping. I'll go, okay, let's go have a hot dog. My wife's not having a hot dog at Costco. I guess I, could say, hey, you can shop. I'll go have a hot dog. That's not really how I roll. However, there was a time, and it's been a long time since I've done this, that we would go to Whole Foods. And Whole Foods has a bar right in the middle of it. I guess it's not a bar. I mean, they're serving beer, and they've got a place. It's kind of a bar. Cafeteria. I called it a bar. So my wife would say, I'm going shopping. I'm like, I'll go. She was like, yeah, you'll go. All right. And I would go right to the bar right there at Whole Foods. I'd spend $200 on, a small basket of food. And then I would, spend $100 right there in the middle. We'd go home, we're broke. It came down to it. Michigan has put in effort to shift towards letting in more state students. Is that right? Admissions talk usually bores me. I'm not trying to be harsh on you, YouTube, but this actually is not boring me. I like it. Now, Mr. Martini says a fresh Whole Foods pizza is well above average. Good stuff. I would agree with that. Sitting over there under that light, the giant pizzas. I'm in on that. I don't know. $1.50 for a quality hot dog and drink is the best deal in America. My wife is not a Fed. Costco pizza is $2 a slice and 3 times the size of a regular slice. So you go to Costco hungry, you have the plan, you walk around, gobble up all the free samples, go over, get a $1.50 hot dog, and then buy a bag of peanuts for $7. You walk out of there feeling like you're doing pretty good. All right. Good talk there. Okay, here's the question that I want somebody to answer. I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to answer it in 7 minutes. Both Michigan hockey, the number 2 team in the country, and a number 2 Michigan basketball team. What would you say is a more difficult national championship to win? Will it be for Brandon Naurato and Michigan this year, or will it be for Dusty May and Michigan this year to win the national championship in college basketball? Answer it. Let's see if anybody wants to take a shot. Now, as I was thinking about it, when I look at professional sports, I think the Stanley Cup is more difficult to win than the Davey O'Brien Trophy, the NBA championship. And why I say that is that you just have to look at the amount of upsets that happen in hockey almost every year. It's not unheard of at all to see the 8 seed knock off the 1, or the 7 seed, 6 seed go all the way and make it to the Stanley Cup finals. It happens almost every year, and it very rarely happens in the NBA. Seeding really holds. You don't have many to go through. We could kind of name them on one hand the amount of times that an 8 seed has knocked off a 1 seed. Not very frequently. So that makes it more difficult if you're to win. I mean, you try to make the argument, well, you just have to get in and get a hot goaltender. But then you win a round and you're not very good. You get a hot goaltender. But I think it's hockey because of the upsets that happened. Mr. Martini. Okay, Mr. Martini is the one. YouTube jumps in on it and says, our team benefits from it being a single elimination tournament. We struggle in the second game of a series during the regular season play. Hockey will likely get a top seed in a regional. So you're right about Michigan. They usually win on Friday night and lose on Saturday. I've seen that, that you can look at the schedule, and you just look to last weekend. They won on Friday, lost on Saturday. Look, when they played Penn State, they won whatever it was, 7-6-1 on Friday, and then lost 4-2. And it's been that way. It's been a trend all year long. So I don't know if that's I don't know if there's something, would you say it's the coach or what that would be. No, that's going to be something I'm going to be putting in my back pocket to talk about in Wisconsin. What's the reason for that? YouTube says competition in the Frozen Four will be like hitting a brick wall all of a sudden. I am going to say that it is going to be more difficult than basketball for the simple reason that when you get into the NCAA tournament, there are 64, and then they add on those superficial play-ins, 68 teams. And in hockey, there's 16 teams. So basketball, to even get to the situation where you're at in hockey in a one-game elimination, you have to win 2 games. And yeah, if you're a 1 seed, 1-16, that's going to be easier than whatever you play in hockey in that first game. I'll give you that. But there's plenty of the number 1 seeds that have lost in the second round. So it's that second round game that I am looking at that is more difficult, that makes it tougher to win. You have to win 6 games in basketball and say only 4 in hockey. That's why I would say it would be more difficult to win in basketball. That's what I see. Now, you maybe try to make a counter to that. You can. I think if you're a big-time hockey player, it's usually cut along. Sometimes you say, "Oh, that's just going to be party lines." You're going to know that's Democrat. You're going to know that's Republican. Whenever you talk about basketball and hockey, people that like basketball and there's people that like the hockey people are always like, "Oh, hockey's going to be tougher. Hockey's a tougher sport. Hockey's everything." And I get that. You love your sport and you say, "No, it's going to be more tough in hockey." I have to admit that with the soda talk that's going on right now, that there's somebody saying that they hate grape soda. Now, if I was listing my favorite sodas, Pops, that's what we call it around here in Michigan, grape would not be in the top 5. And if I was going to drink something grape, it would be Welch's grape. And a little kid, pour some Welch's grape, boom. I mean, that's pure heaven. Grape soda, I mean, I think Welch's grape drink, whatever it's called. I think they call it fruit juice. I'll take that over grape soda. But if I was putting together a top 5 Pops of all time, I would put cane. They all have to be cane sugar. You can tell the difference. I said I was going to give the answer in 7 minutes. I gave it up in like 5, 4 even. Nobody was answering the question. Coke would be number 1. I don't even know what would be number 2. It would be an orange soda. I don't know. Whenever I fly, it's just usually a little, ginger ale. But I'm not putting a ginger ale in a top 5. Coke, Sprite, I don't know, Mountain Dew. You can't drink much Mountain Dew, but I would put a Mountain Dew in there too. Coke, Mountain Dew. What else would be in there? 7-Up, Sprite. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, orange. I'm going to put orange in there. And why not? A little, I don't know if there's any other good ones. Pretty flat. Oh, the Red Pop. Let me get a Red Pop in there. Let's do it. Coke, Mountain Dew, Red Pop, Orange Pop. There's 4. Just get a Sprite in there. Let's do it. That would be it. This is a great question. A tremendous question from Smash that we will end the show on. How am I going to get from Indy to Vegas? It's going to be a whirlwind. Well, April 6th is the championship game. That's a Monday. And so Michigan's going to be playing in Indy. And then the following will be Friday, Saturday. It'll be Thursday, Saturday. So I think it'll be Thursday, the Frozen Four. Saturday, Monday. I'm not exactly sure on the... I'm getting a text. RC Cola. Oh, Dr. Pepper. I'm not a Dr. Pepper person. I don't mind some of the commercials. But I've never been a doctor. An RC? I don't like root beer. No. These two wouldn't make my... I thought maybe people would be like, oh, yeah, you're going to throw one of those in there. I'm like, no, it wouldn't be root beer. For sure. Wouldn't be Dr. Pepper. Andre says, Rip doesn't need a channel, podcast, or any other content creation. What are we talking about? We use a lot of his material here, that's for sure. All right, YouTube, last point. 2/3 of the teams that make the hockey tournament will eventually get separated from the wheat. The chaff will eventually get separated from the wheat. I like the terminology there. Basketball, it's even more, like 80% have a zero shot at the title. That's it. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. We will see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. What's going on over there? Basketball talk for sure, heading into the weekend. Hockey talk for sure. And I did see right before I came on, Josh Henschke had put a story about winter conditioning, some news and notes that he has been able to gather. And there's some safety talk. I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's good. There's some DB talk in there. They actually were talking about hot boxing in that particular thread. So all of that was happening. And that's the kind of, you're thirsty, not for Red Pop, not for a Mexican Coca-Cola, for football news. It's all there. See you over there. Talk to you tomorrow after the Michigan UCLA game. Goodbye.